The morning sunlight streaming through my home office window gently reflected off my monitor screen. The early summer morning in the quiet residential area of suburban Charlotte was more peaceful than usual. As a freelance graphic designer, being able to work from home was my greatest happiness. "Mom, I did it." My 6-year-old son Tommy burst into my office with a backpack in his hands, beaming with pride. We had a family trip to Atlanta planned for the weekend. Though it was just a journey to attend my aunt's 80th birthday party, for Tommy, it felt like a long-awaited adventure. "That's wonderful, Tommy. Did you remember to pack your toothbrush?" "Yes. I packed everything from the list Dad helped me make." I couldn't help but smile at Tommy's words. My husband Michael, despite being vice president of Skyline Development, was a wonderful father who never neglected his family. Last night's scene of him making a packing list with Tommy was particularly memorable. "Good morning, you two." Michael's voice called from downstairs, and soon he appeared at my office door. His well-fitted navy suit reflected his characteristic attention to detail, even on a weekend morning. "I'm heading to the office early to prepare for tomorrow's vacation. Jessica will help me organize the paperwork, so I should be back by evening." I nodded at Michael's words. Jessica was his capable subordinate who had earned his trust since joining the company. She was someone we could rely on to handle work matters during our vacation. "Then we'll take care of things here at home." Tommy said he'd help too. "Is that right? Tommy, take good care of Mom, okay?" Michael gently patted Tommy's head, and our son beamed with pride. Tommy, now a first grader at Providence Spring Elementary, was growing more mature by the day. He was known for his bright and honest personality at school, and his teachers spoke highly of him. He particularly excelled in math and science, saying he wanted to become an architect like Dad when he grew up. "Oh, that reminds me," I said. "We're still leaving at 8 a.m. tomorrow, right? It takes about 5 hours to Atlanta, so even with breaks, we'll have plenty of time to make it to the party." "Yes, that's right. It should be a comfortable trip in the new SUV," Michael replied with satisfaction. After he left, I continued preparing for the trip with Tommy. Though it was disappointing to miss Sunday church, I was sure God would understand our prioritizing this important family event. Through the window, I could see our neighbor watering her garden flowers. This peaceful daily life was our happiness itself. At 8 a.m. Saturday morning, we left home as planned. While Michael checked the navigation app in the driver's seat of our new Ford Explorer, I took my time checking Tommy's safety in the back seat. With typical maternal meticulousness, I checked everything from the child's seatbelt tightness to his seating comfort and leg position. It's a long drive to Atlanta, but let's make it a fun trip. Let me know if you get bored. You brought your favorite dinosaur book, right? Yes. And the game Dad bought me yesterday. Tommy's energetic response reassured me as I settled back into the passenger seat. The car was filled with that new car smell, and the plush beige leather seats embraced us comfortably. This new car Michael had chosen was indeed perfect for family trips. The spacious interior, latest safety features, and quiet engine, everything seemed perfect. Michael pointed at the screen and said, "We should make it in plenty of time even with a couple of breaks." Though the forecast predicted humid weather, the air-conditioned interior was perfectly comfortable. As we headed south on I-85, Michael would occasionally speak to Tommy through the rearview mirror, teaching him about the history of the towns we passed and the meaning of road signs. As expected of a real estate development vice president, his knowledge of urban development was extensive. "Hey Tommy, see those tall buildings beyond the sign? That's downtown Charlotte. Dad's company is somewhere in there." "Wow! Is Dad's company in one of those tall buildings?" "Yes, it's in a 42-story skyscraper." "Maybe we should have Dad take you to his office sometime," I joined in the conversation. Outside the window, the early summer sunlight brightly illuminated the green trees. Pleasant country music played on the car radio. I occasionally noticed Michael checking his phone. Given his usual dedication to work, I assumed he was just checking on business matters even during vacation. At the time, I thought it was just routine work verification. Looking back now, I should have paid more attention to those frequent phone checks. About 2 hours after leaving Charlotte, Michael spoke up. "Let's take a break soon. There's a pilot travel center about 30 miles ahead. We can fill up on gas and grab a snack." I checked the time. It was just past 10 a.m. Given how long it had been since breakfast, I was feeling a bit hungry too. "Yes, that sounds good. Tommy, do you need to use the bathroom? We can get something to drink too. I want to get out. I'm thirsty." Tommy's voice came from the back seat. Michael activated the turn signal and began preparing to exit the highway. With smooth handling, he headed for the exit and soon arrived at the rest area parking lot. In the relatively empty parking lot, he chose a spot somewhat distant from the building. Later I would realize this spot was in a camera blind spot. Whether this was intentional, I had no idea at the time. On the far side of the parking lot were several large trucks. Most probably belonged to drivers taking their breaks. One of them, a red and silver two-tone truck, would soon dramatically change our lives. That red and silver truck, I still remember it clearly. Michael stopped the car and unbuckled his seatbelt. "I'm going to use the bathroom. You two wait in the car. I'll leave the air conditioning on since it's hot outside." "Okay, be careful." I nodded at Michael's words as he opened the door and stepped out. His black business shoes crossed the parking lot's white lines as he walked toward the rest area building. I absently watched his back until it disappeared behind the automatic doors. A few minutes after he vanished from sight, Tommy called out to me in a trembling voice. His expression showed an anxiety I'd never seen before, carrying an unusual tension. "What's wrong, Tommy?" Tommy suddenly leaned forward and reached for my shoulder. His small fingers gripped my arm tightly. "Mom, we need to run." I could feel his hand trembling slightly. That trembling transferred to my body. Instinctively, I realized something serious was happening. What you might call a mother's intuition activated all my warning systems. "Why? What happened?" "Dad's phone." I saw the messages. Tommy's voice was hoarse, and tears glistened in his eyes. My heart began to race. My mouth suddenly felt dry. "What messages?" I tried to keep my voice steady, but a slight tremor still crept in. "Dad and the young lady, they're planning for us to disappear." "Mom, I'm scared." It took my mind a few seconds to comprehend what those words meant. However, my son's serious expression and trembling voice instantly told me this wasn't a child's made-up story. All the small oddities from before suddenly took on grave significance. The frequent phone checks, late-night work, subtly changed attitude. And choosing this particular parking spot. My hand naturally reached for my cell phone. I unlocked the screen and dialed emergency services. While various thoughts swirled in my head, maternal instinct made me act decisively. "Tommy, listen to Mom carefully. Keep your seatbelt fastened tight." Instructing my son to stay in the car, I quickly stepped outside while waiting for the 911 operator to answer. Stepping into the rest area parking lot, the heat was a stark contrast to the car's interior. The reflection from the asphalt seemed to heighten the tension of the situation. I'm at the Pilot Travel Center along I-85. My son and I are in danger. At that moment, a thunderous noise pierced my ears. Behind me, there was a tremendous sound of metal crashing. When I turned around, a scream escaped my throat. That red and silver two-tone truck was ramming into our car. The impact severely deformed the vehicle body, and shattered window glass scattered across the parking lot. The scene burned into my retina as if in slow motion. Countless glittering glass shards. The deforming vehicle body. And the sight of my son who should be inside. "Tommy!" My scream echoed throughout the rest area. At that moment, my world completely changed. The peaceful daily life from just yesterday instantly transformed into an irretrievable nightmare. People nearby turned in surprise. Everything felt like events in a distant world, and my consciousness was filled only with thoughts of my son. The first to rush over was an employee from the Pilot Travel Center's coffee shop. The young woman in her early 20s wearing a green apron tried to grasp the situation with a pale face. She still held a paper cup of hot coffee in her hand. "An ambulance! Someone call an ambulance!" I instinctively started running toward the vehicle where my son was. The smell of gasoline began wafting from the deformed car body. However, people around me held me back. "It's dangerous. Fuel might be leaking. There's a risk of explosion, please stay back." The voice belonged to a man in work clothes. He was calmly assessing the situation. A small crowd was already forming in the parking lot. A group of elderly tourists from a tour bus, long-distance drivers, rest area employees, and simple passers-by. I noticed someone trying to record video with their phone, but at that moment, I had no energy to care about such things. "My son is in there. Help!" I desperately tried to break free from the people's arms. That's when a security guard appeared and spoke to me in a calm voice. "Ma'am, please stay calm. The fire department and ambulance are already on their way. Charlotte-Mecklenburg Emergency Services have been contacted. They'll arrive in just a few minutes. Until then, would you call out to your son? He'll be reassured if he can hear your voice." The security guard's calm voice helped me regain a bit of rationality. Following his instructions, I kept calling out toward the car. "Tommy! Mom's right here. It's going to be okay. Help is coming soon." I thought I heard my son's faint crying from the deformed vehicle. That sound painfully tore at my heart. Praying, I kept calling my son's name over and over. About 5 minutes after the accident, the smell of leaking gasoline grew stronger. Rest area employees began standing by with fire extinguishers. The tension among the people gathered in the parking lot was palpable. That's when someone shouted, "Where's the truck driver?" Indeed, the driver's seat of the red and silver two-tone truck that caused the collision was empty. Looking around, no one resembling the driver could be seen. As an ominous atmosphere began to spread, the sound of sirens could be heard in the distance. Fire trucks and ambulances arrived at the scene one after another, and rescue teams immediately began their operations. Firefighters in orange protective gear efficiently prepared their equipment. I was explaining the sequence of events leading up to the accident to a young female police officer. She listened intently to my story while taking notes. Michael's unusual behavior, and the messages Tommy said he saw on the phone. As I explained, various doubts grew within me. "Mrs. Carter, when did you last see your husband?" That question startled me. Michael was nowhere to be seen. More than 20 minutes had passed since he said he was going to the bathroom. Police officers searching the building hadn't reported seeing him either. At that moment, a strong voice came from the rescue team. "We've rescued the boy. He's conscious. Vitals are stable." I immediately ran to that location. I could see Tommy being placed on a yellow stretcher. The child's seat had clearly saved his life. Though he had scratches on his face and was trembling, there were no apparent major injuries. "Mom." I was scared. At Tommy's weak voice, tears welled up in my eyes. A paramedic spoke to me while fitting an oxygen mask on him. "We're taking him to Novant Health Presbyterian Medical Center. While it seems he's avoided serious injury, we need to do detailed examinations to be sure. We'll do CT scans and internal organ checks." I was permitted to ride in the ambulance. At that time, I caught fragments of conversation from the police officers conducting the scene investigation. "The truck's license plate isn't registered. Collect witness statements about the driver. Why choose this parking spot? It's a complete blind spot." The fragments of conversation I heard carried an ominous air. At the accident scene, police forensics team members had begun taking photographs. During the roughly 20-minute ambulance ride, I held Tommy's hand continuously. The paramedics checked his vital signs, monitoring his heart rate and blood pressure on screens. As Charlotte's cityscape flowed past the windows, I desperately tried to comfort my son. "You were so brave, Tommy. Thank you for telling Mom. Because of you, we..." Tommy just nodded slightly. His eyes held a fear that no 6-year-old should experience. Occasionally, I could feel his small body trembling. The paramedic explained this might be a sign of psychological trauma. When we arrived at the hospital, the emergency room at Novant Health Presbyterian Medical Center was already prepared to receive us. A team of doctors and nurses in white coats immediately surrounded the stretcher as it was unloaded from the ambulance. 6-year-old male, vehicle accident victim, conscious, vitals stable. CT room is ready. Brief conversations were exchanged among the medical team. Tommy was taken to the examination room, and I was told to wait in the waiting area. The spacious, predominantly white waiting room already had several families sitting with serious expressions. That's when I saw Michael rushing into the hospital lobby. Linda. His usually dashing appearance was nowhere to be seen. His suit was wrinkled, sweat beaded on his forehead, and his expression showed an anxiety I'd never seen before. However, before he could approach us, 2 police officers stepped in front of him. "Mr. Michael Carter. We have some questions for you." The young female police officer from earlier spoke in a calm voice. "Why weren't you at the scene during the accident? We checked the security camera footage, but there's no record of you entering the building." I didn't miss the slight tensing of Michael's face. His left hand was trembling slightly. His words trailed off. At that moment, a doctor in light blue scrubs appeared in the waiting room. "We have your son's test results." We all turned toward the doctor. While praying for Tommy's safety, I took a deep breath. The doctor's explanation was fortunately positive regarding physical aspects. Thanks to the properly installed child seat, Tommy's injuries were limited to mild bruising and scratches. However, the psychological shock was significant, and considering the possibility of post-traumatic stress disorder, he would need to be monitored for a while. We'll keep him hospitalized tonight to observe his condition. A child psychologist is standing by, so we can begin treatment tomorrow. As I was about to head to my son's room, the police officer addressed Michael again. Her expression had become sterner than before. "Would you cooperate with our questioning at the station? We have numerous points to confirm regarding the security camera footage and witness statements from the scene." Michael momentarily showed an expression as if he wanted to run away. However, surrounded by police officers, he had no choice but to comply. "Yes, of course, I'll cooperate." His voice held not a trace of his usual confidence. He seemed like a completely different person. There was no sign of his usual dignified demeanor anywhere. While holding Tommy's hand in the hospital room, I quietly prepared myself for the long battle that was about to begin. From the room's window, I could see Charlotte's cityscape. The early summer sunlight was piercingly bright, as if mocking our peaceful daily life from just this morning. 24 hours after the accident, on Sunday morning, I was listening to detectives' explanations in a hospital room. Outside the window, church bells rang quietly. This would have been the time we'd normally be heading to church as a family. Let me share the facts that our investigation has uncovered. Charlotte Mecklenburg Police Detective Sarah Martin opened her file with a steady voice. Next to her sat cybercrime detective Jim Collins. Both appeared to have been investigating continuously since yesterday without rest. "First, we've confirmed the mobile phone messages your son witnessed before the accident." Detective Collins's tablet displayed a complex diagram of communication records. The events at the rest area vividly came back to me. The messages Tommy saw were sent and received through an encrypted application. However, after accessing the data with a warrant, we were able to recover all exchanges from the past 2 years. While scrolling through the screen, the detective continued his explanation. "We've confirmed frequent communications with a specific number. Multiple times a day, regardless of whether it was late night or early morning. The other party is Skyline Development employee Jessica Roberts." Hearing that name, I felt my spine freeze. The young employee Michael trusted. A woman we sometimes socialized with as families. Someone who had even given Tommy a Christmas present last year. Faced with this reality, I was at a loss for words. We've also confirmed the content of the messages, Detective Collins continued. Particularly the exchanges from the past months serve as decisive evidence. The detective hesitated for a moment before carefully proceeding. They were planning a new life in Miami, Florida. Everything was prepared for them to head there immediately after the accident. Detective Martin spread out new documents. The financial investigation of Skyline Development also revealed serious fraud. Following an internal whistleblower report from the accounting department, we conducted an overnight investigation. The spreadsheet screen showed complex money flows. Over the past year, approximately $3 million in funds had been diverted through multiple fictitious projects. The South Beach Resort Development Project in particular is suspicious. While it appears to be a legitimate investment on paper, the reality is completely different. Specifically, it's a luxury condominium on Miami's oceanfront. Purchase price, $2.5 million, the other detective added. It was contracted under Jessica Roberts's name, and interior work was already completed. This fraud would have certainly been discovered during next week's scheduled company audit. That pressure must have been driving them into a corner. The police investigation revealed even more shocking facts. We've also confirmed the existence of life insurance policies taken out 3 months ago. Detective Martin's voice grew more serious. Life insurance for you and your child. It was contracted as part of the company's benefits program. The insurance amount is $5 million each for both of you. The beneficiary is your husband. My hands trembled. I remembered how 2 days before the accident, Michael had brought documents, saying, "It's the company's new insurance system," and asked for my signature. I had signed without any suspicion. Analysis of the accident scene also reveals clear planning. Detective Collins switched the tablet screen. A detailed diagram of the rest area appeared. This is the parking lot surveillance camera layout. The spot where he parked was a complete blind spot. Furthermore, we've identified the truck driver, Steve Morrison. Morrison is a college friend of your husband. He was promised a $500,000 reward, as he was in financial difficulties. Detective Martin showed a new photograph. A young Michael and Steve. They were smiling with their arms around each other's shoulders, wearing football uniforms. Morrison turned himself in this morning. He said he couldn't bear the guilt. His testimony revealed the full scope of the plan. They intended to collect $10 million in insurance money and start a new life in Miami before the company audit. To achieve this, they had planned to eliminate me and Tommy. Decisive evidence was also found at Roberts's residence. Detective Collins shared the latest investigation results. Airline tickets to Miami, new passports, and a large amount of cash. All prepared yesterday evening. According to the plan, they were supposed to fly to Miami amid the confusion after the accident. However, Tommy's quick thinking exposed everything. Those words brought to mind Tommy sleeping in his hospital room. The pure heart of my 6-year-old son had saved our lives. And on Monday morning, all their plans came to an end. At 8 a.m., the police special investigation unit arrived at the high-rise building housing Skyline Development. Red and blue patrol car lights reflected off the glass entrance. Michael was arrested on the 42nd floor office, just as the first morning meeting was about to begin. Employees watched as Michael was quietly handcuffed. The once dignified vice president's presence was no longer there. At the same time, another investigation team surrounded Jessica Roberts's luxury apartment. Designer clothes were stuffed into the open closet, and airline tickets to Miami lay on the table. She submitted to arrest without resistance. Local media covered the incident extensively. The Charlotte Observer ran front-page headlines, "Skyline Development VP Planned Family Murder," and local TV station WSNC-TV produced a special program detailing the incident. $3 million company fund embezzlement discovered, escape plan with mistress, attempted murder for insurance money, 6-year-old boy's courage saves mother's life. Each headline stabbed at my heart. The most shocking evidence was found on Michael's laptop, a detailed plan. The accident location and timing, truck collision angle, security camera blind spots, alibi creation, insurance collection procedures, plans for their new life in Miami. Everything was documented with cold calculation. Digital forensic analysis allowed us to recover deleted emails and messages. Detective Collins made his final report. The planning began about 6 months ago. Their actions became increasingly desperate as the company audit approached. Skyline Development's internal investigation continued to reveal new facts. Michael and Jessica's relationship had begun 2 years ago. What started as a simple workplace relationship gradually deepened. Then the company fund misappropriation began, and everything progressed toward an irreversible direction. According to colleague testimonies, there were suspicions about their relationship within the company. However, due to the weight of the vice president position, no one dared to speak up. Your son's testimony was key to solving this case, Detective Martin stated quietly. His brave action prevented the worst outcome. Looking at Tommy sleeping in his hospital room, I heaved a deep sigh. My son's intuition and courage had saved our lives. However, it had also left deep wounds in his heart. Hours after the arrest, Steve Morrison's testimony revealed more details. He had participated in Michael's plan due to financial difficulties. The promised reward was $500,000. However, unable to bear the guilt after the accident, he decided to turn himself in. Evening News reported this incident as the failure of a perfect plan. But to me, it seemed like divine guidance, thwarted by my son's pure heart and sharp intuition. As shock waves ran through Charlotte's business community, prosecutors moved swiftly. Within a week of the incident's discovery, all 3 suspects were indicted. Michael was charged with attempted murder, insurance fraud, and company fund embezzlement. Jessica was charged with conspiracy and fraud, and Steve with aiding attempted murder. The incident had a significant impact on the local community. The church community extended support to us, and Tommy's elementary school began special care with staff and counselors. We feel deep sadness that such an incident occurred in our community. The principal of Providence Spring Elementary School issued a statement. However, we have also learned important lessons from the brave actions of our young student. The evening sky visible from the hospital room quietly changed colors. I closed my eyes deeply, preparing for our new life starting tomorrow. Telling myself this wasn't an end, but a new beginning. 6 months after the incident, Tommy and I are living a new life. Every morning at Lakeview Elementary School's gate where I drop him off, Tommy waves with a smile. Though there were concerns about the transfer initially, thanks to his teacher Mrs. Brown's warm consideration, he has now regained his natural smile. "Mom, I'm going to play with friends at the park today too." Those words fill me with deep relief. The twice-weekly psychological counseling is clearly showing effects. The nights haunted by nightmares are gradually decreasing. Last month, we received the final communication from Charlotte. It reported that all trials had concluded. Michael received 25 years in prison for attempted murder and insurance fraud. Jessica received 10 years as an accomplice, and Steve, who had turned himself in, received 8 years through a plea bargain. It was truly over now. In my new home study, I had resumed my graphic design work. Local clients were gradually increasing, and new relationships were being built. The church community had warmly welcomed us, mother and son. I'm so glad I listened to Tommy's words that day. When I expressed this during counseling, the doctor quietly nodded. Children's intuition can sometimes be sharper than adults. Perhaps it was the courage of a mother who believed in that intuition that opened the path to a new life. Outside the window, the blue waves of the Gulf of Mexico sparkled. The dark memories were gradually healing in this light. Mother and child, a new form of family. But our story, bound by sure ties, has only just begun.